The storm came without warning, turning the peaceful evening sky into a nightmare of lightning and thunder. Daeho stood in his workshop doorway, watching the dark clouds roll across the mountains. He had seen worse weather during his years on New Jeju, but something about this storm felt different. Wrong. He was about to close the door when he saw it. A streak of fire cutting through the clouds, too bright to be lightning, too fast to be anything natural. The object screamed across the sky, trailing smoke and flames. It disappeared behind the mountain ridge with a boom that shook the ground beneath his feet. Daeho cursed under his breath. A crash. Someone was hurt up there, maybe dying. His instincts told him to grab his tools and go. His common sense told him to stay put. After 5 years of peace, he had no desire to get involved in whatever trouble just fell from the sky. He stood there for a long minute, rain starting to fall on his face. Then he sighed, grabbed his emergency kit and headed for his old transport vehicle. The drive up the mountain was brutal. The rain turned the dirt roads into rivers of mud. Twice his vehicle almost slid off the narrow path. But Daeho had been a combat engineer in the Human Defense Coalition. He knew how to handle dangerous situations. His hand stayed steady on the controls. When he reached the crash site, his breath caught in his throat. The wreckage was massive, easily the size of a small building. It had carved a deep trench through the forest, leaving broken trees and smoking earth in its wake. The hull was unlike anything he had seen before. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface, and the metal seemed to shimmer even in the darkness. This was not a human ship. Daeho approached carefully, scanning for danger. His old military training kicked in automatically. Check for radiation, look for fuel leaks, listen for survivors. The ship's hull was cracked open in several places, and he could see the interior. Alien technology covered every surface, some of it still sparking with power. Then he heard it. A low groan, barely audible over the rain. He climbed through a tear in the hull, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The interior was a mess of twisted metal and broken equipment. Bodies lay scattered throughout the wreckage. They were tall, elegant beings with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly. All of them were dead. All except one. She was pinned beneath a fallen beam, her body covered in ornate armor that looked both mechanical and organic. The armor was beautiful despite the damage, covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with dim light. But what caught Daeho's attention was the chest piece. It was cracked, leaking both dark blood and some kind of luminescent fluid. The fluid seemed to be keeping her alive, but she was losing it fast. He knelt beside her, assessing the damage. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with difficulty. They were bright silver, like polished metal and filled with pain. "Human," she whispered in accented but clear language. Her voice was weak but carried an unmistakable tone of authority. "You should leave. They will come." "Not leaving you here," Daeho said, already working to lift the beam. "Who's coming?" "My people." She coughed, and more of that strange fluid leaked from her armor. "They want me dead." Daeho managed to shift the beam enough to pull her free. She was tall, nearly as tall as him, and surprisingly light despite the heavy armor. He carefully lifted her into his arms. She gasped in pain, her hand clutching at her damaged chest plate. "That part," she whispered, her silver eyes meeting his. "Be careful. It's sensitive." He nodded, adjusting his grip to avoid the damaged area. The armor was warm under his hands, almost like living flesh. He carried her back to his vehicle, moving as quickly as he dared on the slippery ground. The drive back was even worse than the journey up. The woman drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes muttering words in a language he did not understand. Every bump in the road made her gasp in pain. Daeho drove as smoothly as possible, but time was running out. He could see her armor's glow fading. Back at his workshop, he laid her on his main workbench. The space was cluttered with tools and spare parts from dozens of different machines and ships. If there was any place on this planet where he could help her, it was here. He cut away the damaged outer layer of her armor, revealing the mechanisms beneath. What he saw made his blood run cold. The armor was not just clothing. It was connected directly to her body through hundreds of tiny filaments that ran into her skin. The chest piece was the most complex part, with connections running directly to what he assumed was her heart. Daeho had repaired countless machines during the war. He had worked on human cybernetics and captured alien technology, but he had never seen anything like this. The line between machine and living being was completely blurred. He took a deep breath and started working. First, he needed to stop the fluid leak. He traced the damaged lines, carefully sealing each one with a plasma welder set to its lowest setting. The woman's eyes snapped open when the heat touched her armor, and she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Careful," she gasped. "That part's sensitive." "I know," he said gently. "I'm trying to save your life. Trust me." Their eyes met for a long moment. Then she slowly released his wrist and nodded. Her hand remained close, though, ready to stop him if he made a mistake. Daeho worked through the night. The storm raged outside while he carefully repaired connection after connection. The armor seemed to respond to his touch, the symbols along its surface glowing brighter when he made the right repairs. It was fascinating and terrifying at the same time. As dawn broke, he finally finished the last connection. The chest piece was no longer leaking. The glow had stabilized. She would live. The woman opened her eyes fully for the first time since the crash. She looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. "You saved me," she said, her voice stronger now. "Why?" "Because you needed help," Daeho replied simply. She studied him for a long moment, those silver eyes seeming to look straight through him. Then she spoke again, and this time her voice carried a weight of authority that made the air feel heavy. "I am Isol, Queen of the Velhari Empire, and I am being hunted by my own people." Before Daeho could respond, she closed her eyes and fell unconscious again. He stood there, staring at the alien queen on his workbench, and wondered what kind of trouble he had just invited into his life. Outside, the storm finally began to clear. But Daeho knew that a much bigger storm was coming. Queen Isol woke 3 hours after dawn. Daeho was at his desk, running diagnostics on a piece of her armor he had removed for cleaning. He heard her move and turned to find those silver eyes watching him with sharp intelligence. "How long was I unconscious?" she asked. "About 7 hours since we got here. 15 since the crash." He set down his tools and approached the workbench. "How do you feel?" "Like I flew a ship into a mountain?" She tried to sit up, then winced and fell back. "My armor. What did you do to it?" "Saved your life." Daeho pulled up a chair beside her. "Your chest piece was leaking fluid into your body cavity. I sealed the breaches and reconnected the damaged pathways. You were dying." Isol's hand moved to her chest plate, fingers tracing the repair marks. Her expression was unreadable. "You should not have been able to do that. Velhari bio-armor is beyond human understanding. I'm a good mechanic." Clearly. She finally managed to sit up, moving slowly. Her armor adjusted with her movements, the symbols along its surface pulsing gently. "Where am I?" "My workshop. New Jeju Colony, Outer Rim Territory. You're safe for now." "Safe," she laughed bitterly. "I will never be safe again." Daeho leaned back in his chair. "You said you're being hunted by your own people. Want to explain that?" Isol was quiet for a long moment. She looked around the workshop, taking in the cluttered shelves and walls covered with salvaged parts. Her gaze lingered on a damaged Velhari power cell mounted on the wall like a trophy. "You collect our technology," she observed. "I collect all kinds of technology. Helps me understand how things work." He gestured to the power cell. "That one came from a disabled scout ship that crashed here 2 years ago. The crew survived and left it behind. And you just took it apart?" "Studied it, fixed it, learned from it." Daeho crossed his arms. "You're stalling. Tell me why a queen is running from her own empire." Isol's jaw tightened. "The Velhari Empire has existed for 3,000 years. We have conquered 16 star systems. We are powerful, advanced, and according to our military council, we have the right to destroy any species we consider inferior. Sounds about right for an empire." 3 months ago, our scout ships discovered a primitive species on a planet rich in resources we need. The military council voted to exterminate them and take the planet. It was efficient, clean, logical. Her hands clenched into fists. "I refuse to authorize it." Daeho raised his eyebrows. "Just like that?" "Just like that," Isol met his eyes. "They are a peaceful people. They have families, culture, art. They have done nothing to threaten us. I will not order genocide for convenience. So your military council decided to remove you. They declared me unfit to rule. Said I had become weak, corrupted by sentiment. They sent assassins." She touched her damaged armor again. "My personal guard helped me escape, but they died buying me time. I stole a ship and ran. I have been running for weeks." The workshop fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. Daeho studied the alien queen, seeing past the armor and authority to the exhaustion beneath. She reminded him of soldiers he had known during the war. Good people who had seen too much and paid too high a price for doing what was right. "They'll track you here," he said finally. "Yes. My ship's emergency beacon would have activated during the crash. They will investigate." She looked at him directly. "You should leave this place. When they arrive, they will kill anyone who helped me. This is my home." "Then you are a fool." "Probably." Deho stood and walked to his computer terminal. "Let me scan for incoming ships." While he worked, Isol slowly got to her feet. She swayed but stayed upright, her armor supporting her weight. She walked around the workshop with careful steps, examining his tools and projects. "This is impressive," she said, pausing at a half-assembled engine. "You built this?" "Rebuilding it. Thought I could improve the fuel efficiency. This design should not work. The compression ratios are wrong." "It works fine." Isul tilted her head, studying the engine more closely. "You changed the intake sequence. Clever. Inefficient by Velhari standards, but functional." She almost sounded impressed. "We humans are good at making things work with what we have. Primitives with potential. That is what our xenology reports call your species." She turned to face him. "They underestimate you." "People usually do." Deho's scanner beeped. He checked the readout and felt his stomach drop. "Got 3 ships entering orbit. Velhari signatures. Military class. Faster than I expected." Isul walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful farmland surrounding the workshop. "They will land by tomorrow morning. Maybe tonight if they push their engines. Can you fight?" She looked down at her damaged armor. "Not well. The chest piece provides most of my armor's power. Your repairs saved my life, but the system is operating at perhaps 40% capacity. I am weak." "Then we need to make you stronger." Deho moved to a storage locker and pulled out containers of components. "Your armor responds to repairs. I've been watching it. When I fix something, the whole system gets a little brighter. The bioarmor is connected to my nervous system. It knows when it is being healed." Isul approached the workbench. "But full repairs would take days." "We do not have days. Then we focus on the important parts. What do you need most?" Isul hesitated. Deho could see the conflict in her expression. She did not want to show weakness, did not want to trust a human with the secrets of her people's technology, but she also knew she had no choice. "The chest piece," she said quietly. "It is the core of the system. Everything connects to it. If you can restore even 60% functionality, I could defend myself. Show me what needs fixing." Isolde reached up and touched a symbol on her chest plate. The armor responded, opening slightly to reveal the mechanisms beneath. Deho leaned in to look and immediately understood why she had called it sensitive. The connections did not just run to her heart. They ran to her entire nervous system, branching out like a tree. The chest piece was reading her emotions, her thoughts, her very life force. "This is incredible," he breathed. "This is private," Isolde said sharply. "For my people, the chest piece is sacred. We do not show it to outsiders ever. But you're showing me. Because I have no choice." She looked away. "And because you have already seen it. You have already touched it. The damage is done." Deho carefully studied the connections without touching anything. "I need to understand how this works. Talk me through it." For the next hour, Isul explained the basics of Velhari bioarmor. She spoke reluctantly at first, then with growing ease as she realized Deho was not just smart but genuinely interested in understanding rather than exploiting. He asked good questions. He made intuitive leaps that surprised her. "You learn quickly," she admitted. "I've had good teachers." Deho selected a tool from his bench. "Okay, I think I can reinforce the primary pathways and replace the damaged regulator. It won't be perfect, but it should get you to 60%. That would be acceptable. This is going to hurt." "I know." Deho began working. Isul stood perfectly still, but he could see her jaw clench with each adjustment. The armor was part of her. Repairing it was like performing surgery while she was awake. But she never told him to stop. As he worked, Deho found himself talking. Maybe to distract her from the pain. Maybe because the silence felt too heavy. "I was a combat engineer during the war. My squad specialized in impossible situations. If something was broken and needed to work, they sent us. Lost a lot of friends that way." "Why did you leave?" Isul asked through gritted teeth. "Because I was tired of watching good people die for bad decisions. My best friend Hyunwoo died because our commander refused to wait for proper equipment, said the mission was too important. Daeho's hands never stopped moving. The mission failed anyway. So you ran away. So I chose a different life. And now you are involved in another bad situation. Seems to be my pattern. Despite the pain, Isol almost smiled. Perhaps we are both fools. Probably. By the time Daeho finished, evening had fallen. Isol's armor glowed noticeably brighter. She moved her arms experimentally, and the systems responded smoothly. 65%, she said, checking her internal readouts. You exceeded expectations. It's what I do. Daeho cleaned his tools. Those ships will be here by morning. We should prepare. We? You think I'm letting you fight alone? Isol looked at him for a long moment. You truly are a fool. That's the second time you've said that. Because it keeps being true. But this time her voice was gentle, almost fond. They spent the night preparing for war. Daeho moved through his workshop and the surrounding property, setting traps in defensive positions. Isol watched at first, then began offering suggestions. Her military knowledge combined with his practical experience created something neither could have managed alone. The ridge to the north, she said, pointing at a map. They will scout from there first. Standard Velhari procedure. Can you rig a false signal? Daeho asked. Make them think you're somewhere else? My armor can broadcast a distress beacon. If I set it to loop and hide it in the eastern forest, it might buy us time. Do it. While Isol programmed the beacon, Daeho checked his weapons. They were old but reliable, human military surplus from his service days. Nothing compared to Velhari technology, but he knew how to use them effectively. Your weapons are primitive, Isol observed, watching him clean a rifle. Primitive works fine if you know what you're doing. The soldiers hunting me have energy shields and plasma weapons. Your bullets will barely slow them. Daeho smiled grimly. Then I'll just have to be creative. He showed her his collection of mining charges, industrial equipment, and improvised explosives. Isol's eyes widened as she understood his plan. He was not going to fight the Velhari soldiers directly. He was going to turn the entire area into a trap. You think like a Velhari tactician, she said. Use the environment. Control the battlefield. Force the enemy to make mistakes. I think like someone who wants to survive. They worked through the night, barely speaking except to coordinate. But the silence felt comfortable rather than awkward. They were two soldiers preparing for battle, and that created its own understanding. As dawn approached, Daeho noticed Isol moving more slowly. She was trying to hide it, but her armor's glow was dimmer than before. You need to rest, he said. No time. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. I can manage. Isol. He used her name for the first time, and she stopped. Rest, that's an order. She turned to glare at him. You do not give me orders, human. In my workshop, I do. Sit down before you fall down. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, Isol laughed. It was a short, sharp sound, but genuine. You are either very brave or very stupid. Why not both? She sat on a bench near his workbench, her armor dimming as she powered down non-essential systems to conserve energy. Daeho brought her water and some basic rations. She looked at the food with suspicion. It's just dried fruit and protein bars. Not exactly a royal feast, but it's what I have. Can I even eat this? Only one way to find out. Isol carefully tried a piece of dried fruit. Her expression shifted to surprise. It is sweet. That's kind of the point. They sat together in the quiet workshop, sharing a simple meal as the sun rose outside. It felt strange and normal at the same time. An alien queen and a human mechanic preparing to fight impossible odds. Tell me about Hyunwoo, Isol said suddenly. Daeho was quiet for a moment. Why do you want to know? Because you mentioned him yesterday. Because his death changed your life. Because... She paused. Because I want to understand you. So Daeho told her. About his friend who could fix anything and always had a joke ready. About the mission that went wrong. Because their commander insisted on using faulty equipment to meet a deadline. About holding Hyunwoo while he died, promising to tell his family he was brave. Your commander was a fool, Isol said when he finished. He was following orders from people who only cared about results. Like my military council. She looked down at her hands. I always knew they were ruthless. I told myself it was necessary for the Empire's survival. But when they asked me to authorize genocide, I finally understood. They were not protecting our people. They were feeding their own power. What made you refuse? I visited the planet first. In secret, without my council's knowledge. I watched the people from orbit. They were having a festival. I saw families dancing, children playing, couples holding hands. Isul's voice softened. They were exactly like us. Different bodies, different technology, but the same hearts. How could I kill them? So you chose them over your empire. I chose what was right over what was easy. She met his eyes. Is that not what you did when you left the military? I guess so. Then we are the same, you and I. We both paid the price for our conscience. Before Daeho could respond, his scanner beeped. He jumped up and checked the display. 3 ships were descending from orbit, heading toward the eastern forest where Isol's beacon was broadcasting. They took the bait, he said. Isol stood, her armor brightening as systems came back online. We have perhaps 20 minutes before they realize the beacon is a trap. Then they will come here. Time to get into position. They moved to their planned defensive positions. Daeho took the high ground in his workshop's upper level, where he had clear sightlines and multiple escape routes. Isil positioned herself near the main entrance, ready to engage any enemies that made it through the outer defenses. Daeho, she called up to him, yeah? If I do not survive this, thank you. For everything. We're both surviving this. That's the plan. Plans rarely survive contact with the enemy. Then we'll make a new plan. 15 minutes passed in tense silence. Then Daeho's perimeter sensors began triggering. 6 figures were approaching from the forest, moving in perfect tactical formation. Velhari soldiers, their armor gleaming in the morning sun. Here they come, he whispered into the comm unit. I see them, Isol replied. 3 standard infantry, 2 scouts, 1 commander. The commander is Taeyang. I know him. He is very dangerous. They're all dangerous. Yes, but Taeyang is different. He believes in the Empire absolutely. He will not stop until I am dead. The soldiers entered the first trap zone. Daeho waited, his finger on the detonator. He had to time this perfectly. Too early and they would scatter. Too late and they would be past the kill zone. One of the scouts raised his hand, signaling a halt. He had detected something. Daeho cursed. These soldiers were good, but good did not mean perfect. The scout took a step forward to investigate. His foot hit the pressure plate. The mining charge exploded with a roar that shook the workshop. When the smoke cleared, both scouts were down and one of the infantry soldiers was wounded. Contact! Taeyang's voice boomed across the field. Defensive formation. The traitor has allies. The remaining soldiers activated their energy shields and began advancing more carefully. Daeho fired his rifle, aiming for gaps in their shields. His bullets sparked off their armor, doing little damage but forcing them to slow down. They will reach the workshop in 3 minutes, Isol warned. Then we springtrap 2. Daeho triggered the second set of charges. The ground beneath 2 of the soldiers collapsed, dropping them into a pit he had dug and covered overnight. They were not dead, but they were out of the fight. That left Taeyang and 1 infantry soldier. Not good odds, but better than 6. The 2 Velhari soldiers burst through the workshop door, weapons ready. Isol met them head-on. Despite her damaged armor, she moved with deadly grace. Her movements were a blur of strikes and counters that drove the infantry soldier back. Taeyang ignored his subordinate and focused on Isol. My queen, he said, his voice cold. You have fallen far. I have risen, Taeyang. You just cannot see it from down there. They clashed and the workshop exploded with light and sound. Their armor systems interacted violently, creating feedback that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Daeho aimed his rifle but could not get a clear shot. They were moving too fast. The infantry soldier spotted Daeho and fired a plasma bolt. It missed by inches, burning a hole through the wall behind him. Daeho rolled behind cover and returned fire, but his bullets just sparked off the soldier's shield. He needed to get creative. Grabbing a plasma cutter from his workbench, Daeho activated it and threw it like a spear. The tool spun through the air, its superheated blade still active. The soldier tried to dodge but was too slow. The cutter hit his shield generator dead center. The shield collapsed with a pop of displaced energy. Now the soldier was vulnerable. Daeho's next shots found their mark. The soldier went down hard. But the situation with Taeyang and Isul was getting worse. Isul was tiring. her damaged armor unable to sustain the power output needed to match her opponent. Taeyang pressed his advantage, driving her back step by step. Then something happened that surprised everyone. Isol's armor suddenly flared brighter than it had since the crash. The repairs Daeho had made were holding, but more than that, they were responding to her determination. The armor was not just a tool, it was connected to her will. She caught Taeyang's next strike and twisted, using his own momentum to throw him across the workshop. He crashed into a wall of shelving and equipment rained down on him. "My armor works better than yours," Isul said, breathing hard, "because it was repaired with care, not manufactured in a factory." Taeyang struggled to his feet, anger replacing his cold professionalism. "You dare lecture me after betraying everything we stand for?" "I betrayed nothing. You and the council abandoned our true principles. We are strong. We are superior. We have the right to take what we need. We have the right to be better than our worst impulses." Taeyang raised his weapon for a final strike. But before he could fire, Daeho shot him from behind. The commander's shield was still recovering from the impact, but the Isul did not waste the opportunity. She struck Taeyang with a powerful blow that sent him crashing through the workshop door and out into the yard. He rolled to his feet, wounded but still dangerous, and activated his emergency beacon. "More soldiers will come," he growled. "You cannot win, traitor." "Perhaps," Isul replied, "but I will die standing for what is right." "Can you say the same?" Taeyang's face twisted with rage. He charged at her one more time, weapon blazing. But he was injured and off balance. Isul sidestepped his attack and struck him hard in the chest. His armor cracked and he fell to his knees. "Go," Isul commanded. "Take your wounded and leave. Tell the council I will not return. They will never stop hunting you. Then they will waste many good soldiers." Taeyang stared at her for a long moment. Then he slowly got to his feet, retrieved his fallen soldiers, and limped back toward his ship. Within minutes, the 3 Velhari vessels lifted off and disappeared into the sky. Daeho emerged from the workshop, his rifle still ready. "Why did you let him go?" "Because enough people have died." Isol's armor dimmed as she powered down, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "And because he will tell the council what happened here. They will know I am not defenseless. They'll send more soldiers. Yes, stronger ones." Daeho caught her as she swayed. "Come on, you need rest. I need to leave. I have brought too much danger to your home already." "You're not going anywhere in your condition." He helped her back into the workshop. "We'll figure out the next step after you recover." Isol wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her. She collapsed onto the workbench, her armor flickering. Daeho immediately began checking her systems, his practiced hands moving with confidence. "The fight put too much stress on the repairs," he muttered. "Some of the connections are degrading again. Can you fix it?" "Yes, but it's going to take time and it's going to hurt worse than before." "Do it." For the next several hours, Daeho worked on her armor while Isul gritted her teeth against the pain. He was gentler than before, having learned the armor's responses, but the damage was more severe this time, requiring him to access deeper systems. "Your armor is amazing," he said while working. "The way it responds to your emotions, adapts to situations. It is like it is alive." "It is part of me," Isil replied quietly. "We receive our armor in a ceremony when we come of age. The bio-armor bonds with our nervous system over time. After 30 years, mine knows me better than I know myself. What happens if you take it off? It causes great pain. The connections do not want to separate. Some Velhari go their entire lives without fully removing their armor. Have you ever taken yours off?" Isil was quiet for a long moment. "Twice. Once during the bonding ceremony before it attached. Once during a medical emergency years ago. It was the most vulnerable I have ever felt. But you're showing me how it works, letting me touch it. I have no choice. There's always a choice." She turned her head to look at him. "Why do you help me, Daeho, truly? You could have left me to die in the crash. You could have surrendered me to Taeyang. Why risk everything for someone you do not know?" Daeho paused in his work. "Because when I looked at you in that wreckage, I did not see an alien queen. I saw someone who needed help. And because you remind me of Hyunwoo, your friend who died. He always stood up for what was right no matter the cost. Got him killed in the end." Daeho resumed working, but he died as himself. Not as what others wanted him to be. "You did the same thing when you refused that order." And look where it brought me. Still alive, still fighting, still yourself. He finished a connection and sat back. I think Hyunwoo would have liked you. Isol smiled faintly. I think I would have liked him as well. The scanner beeped again. Both of them tensed. More ships? Isol asked. Daeho checked the display and his expression shifted from concern to confusion. Not Velhari. It's a human ship. Military signature. Big one. The Human Defense Coalition? Looks like it. He pulled up more details. It's hailing us. Answer it. Daeho activated the comm system. A woman's face appeared on the screen, sharp-featured and stern. Her uniform marked her as a captain. This is Captain Mireille of the HDC frigate Soul's Pride. Am I speaking with Daeho? Daeho blinked in surprise. Captain Mireille? What are you doing here? Looking for you. We intercepted Velhari military communications about a crash on New Jeju and a human providing aid to a fugitive. Imagine my surprise when the human matched your description. Her eyes shifted to Isul. And you must be the fugitive in question. I am Queen Isul of the Velhari Empire. Former queen. According to the Velhari broadcasts, they have declared you dead. Mireille's expression was unreadable. I am landing a shuttle at your location. We need to talk. The communication ended before either of them could respond. You know this human? Isol asked. She was my commanding officer during the war. Tough, smart, and always 3 steps ahead. Daeho ran a hand through his hair. If she is here, it means this situation is bigger than I thought. 20 minutes later, Captain Mireille and 6 Marines landed outside the workshop. Daeho met them at the door while Isul remained inside. Her armor powered up defensively. Stand down, Your Majesty, Mireille called out. We're not here to hurt you. Forgive me if I do not take that on faith, Isul replied. Mireille entered the workshop slowly, her Marines staying outside. She looked around at the damaged equipment and scorch marks from the fight, then at Isul. You look terrible, she observed. I have had a difficult few days. I can see that. Mireille turned to Daeho. I am not going to ask why you helped her. I know you well enough to understand. But you have stumbled into something much larger than a personal rescue. What do you mean? Daeho asked. The Velhari Empire has been escalating its aggression toward neutral systems for months. The coalition has been monitoring the situation closely. When we learned that their queen fled after refusing to authorize an attack, we saw an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Peace, or at least to avoid war. Mireille looked at Isul. Your defection has created chaos in the Velhari leadership. Some factions want to find you and execute you publicly. Others see this as a chance to reform. If we can protect you and help you tell your story, it might prevent a conflict that would cost millions of lives. You want to use me as a political tool, Isul said flatly. I want to prevent unnecessary deaths. If that means using politics, then yes. Mireille crossed her arms. The question is, what do you want? Isul was silent. Daeho could see the conflict in her expression. She had run to escape her responsibilities, but now those responsibilities were finding her anyway. I want my people to be better than they are, Isul said finally. I want them to stop conquering and start building. I want them to see other species as equals, not resources. Then help us make that happen. Come back to Coalition Space. Share what you know about the Military Council's plans. Testify about what they wanted you to do. And what do you gain from this? Intelligence on our most dangerous neighbor. Possibly a powerful ally if the Velhari reform movement succeeds. Mireille smiled thinly. I will not pretend this is pure altruism. But our interests align. Isul looked at Daeho. What do you think? I think she is right. You cannot hide forever, and if your story can stop a war, it is worth telling. And what about you? Isul asked. Will you come with me? The question hung in the air. Daeho had left the military to escape this kind of situation. But looking at Isul, remembering how she had fought despite her injuries, how she had chosen principle over power, he knew what Hyunwoo would have wanted him to do. Yeah, he said. I'll come. Good, Mireille said. Because you are the only person she trusts, and trust is what we need right now. She activated her comm unit. Shuttle, prepare for 3 passengers. We are leaving within the hour. Wait, Isul said. What about the other soldiers? The ones Daeho captured, already retrieved by a secondary Velhari force while we were talking. They were smart enough not to engage a coalition ship. Mireille headed for the door. Pack what you need. We have a long journey ahead. After Mirai left, Daiho and Isol stood in the quiet workshop. Are you certain about this? Isol asked. No, but I am certain about you. She reached out and touched his hand. The gesture was brief, but it carried weight. Thank you, Daiho, for everything. We're not done yet. No, she agreed, looking out at the shuttle waiting in the yard. We are just beginning. They gathered their essential belongings and left the workshop behind. As they walked toward the shuttle, Daiho took one last look at his home. He had come here seeking peace. Instead, he had found purpose. Maybe that was better. The shuttle lifted off, carrying them toward an uncertain future. But they would face it together, and somehow that made all the difference. The soul's pride was impressive. Daiho had seen coalition frigates during his service, but always from the outside. Being aboard one reminded him of everything he had tried to leave behind. The corridors hummed with power. Marines moved with practiced efficiency. Every surface was clean and functional. Isol walked beside him, her armor drawing curious glances from the crew. They had never seen a Velari up close, and certainly not their queen. She held her head high, refusing to show weakness despite her injuries. Captain Mirai led them to a conference room where a holographic display showed the local star systems. Red markers indicated Velhari fleet positions. Blue marked coalition forces. There were far more red than blue. The situation is worse than we thought, Mirai began. After your escape, Queen Isul, the military council declared martial law. They have consolidated power and are preparing for a major offensive. We believe they plan to attack 3 neutral systems simultaneously within the month. Which systems? Isol asked. Mirai highlighted them on the display. Isol's expression darkened. Those are the systems with the richest resources and weakest defenses. The council is not wasting time. Can you provide details on their fleet composition? Defense plans? Anything that might help us prepare? Isol hesitated. Sharing this information meant betraying her people's military secrets, but those same secrets would be used to harm innocent civilians. I will tell you what I know, she said finally. But I have conditions, such as, any military action taken with my information must minimize casualties on both sides. I will not help you slaughter my people even if they follow corrupt leaders. Mirai considered this. Agreed. Our goal is to prevent war, not win it. For the next several hours, Isol shared what she knew about Velhari military doctrine, fleet positions, and the council's strategic thinking. Daiho watched her struggle with each revelation, knowing it cost her to give up these secrets. When they finished, Mirai dismissed her officers but asked Daiho and Isol to remain. There is another matter, she said. Coalition Command wants Queen Isul to make a public statement, something that can be broadcast to both human and Velhari populations. A propaganda piece, Isul said. A testimony. Tell the truth about why you left. About what the council wanted you to do. Let people decide for themselves who is right. The council will call it lies. They will say I am a traitor controlled by humans. Maybe, but some will listen. Some will question. Mirai leaned forward. You started this by refusing that order. Finish it by telling everyone why. Isul looked at Daiho. What do you think? I think she is right. Your people deserve to know the truth. And if it changes nothing, then at least you tried. Isol was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. I will do it. But I want Daiho present during the recording. Why? Mirai asked. Because his presence will prove I am speaking freely, that I have not been coerced. Agreed. The recording took place in the ship's communication center. Isol stood before the camera, her armor polished and repaired. Daiho stood off to the side, visible but not central. The message would be broadcast across dozens of systems in multiple languages. When the recording started, Isol spoke clearly and without hesitation. I am Isol, Queen of the Velhari Empire. 3 months ago, my military council asked me to authorize the extermination of an entire species for the crime of existing on a resource-rich planet. I refused. Not because I am weak, but because I know the difference between strength and cruelty. She continued, explaining what had happened, why she had fled, and what she hoped for her people's future. Her words were powerful, mixing authority with genuine emotion. When she finished, even the hardened communications officers looked moved. That was perfect, Mirai said. We'll broadcast it within the hour. And then the council will send everything they have to kill me, Isol replied. Let them try. You are under coalition protection now. After the recording, Daeho and Isul were given quarters on the same deck. They were small but comfortable, with real beds and private facilities. Luxury compared to the workshop. That evening, Isul came to Daeho's quarters. She looked tired but determined. "May I come in?" she asked. "Of course." She entered and sat on the edge of his bed, her armor dimming to a soft glow. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I never thanked you properly," she said finally. "For saving my life. For standing with me against Taeyang. For coming here when you could have stayed safe. You thanked me several times. With words, not with true understanding." She turned to face him. "In Velhari culture, debts of life are sacred. You saved mine. That creates a bond. I didn't do it for a bond. I know. That is what makes it more meaningful." She reached up and touched her chest plate. "I told you this armor is sensitive. That it is private. Do you understand what that means? That it is connected to your emotions, your heart. More than that, for Velhari, the chest plate is where we are most vulnerable. Showing it to someone is an act of absolute trust. You have seen mine. You have touched it. You have repaired it." Her silver eyes met his. "You know me in a way very few people ever have." Daeho was not sure what to say. The moment felt heavy with meaning he did not fully grasp. "I want you to understand something," Isul continued. "When I asked you to come with me, it was not just because I need protection. It is because I trust you, because you see me as Isul, not as the queen. Because when I am with you, I can be myself. You can always be yourself. No, I cannot. Not with my people. They see the crown, the authority, the symbol. You see me." She stood, her armor brightening slightly. "I should go. We both need rest. Tomorrow will bring new challenges." "Isul, wait." She paused at the door. "For what it is worth, I do not see a queen when I look at you either. I see someone brave and principled who is trying to do the right thing. Someone worth fighting for." She smiled, and for a moment she looked younger, less burdened. "Thank you, Daeho. Sleep well." After she left, Daeho lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Everything had changed so quickly. A week ago he was alone in his workshop, fixing farming equipment and avoiding his past. Now he was aboard a coalition warship, protecting an alien queen who made his chest feel strange when she smiled. Life was complicated. The next morning, Captain Mirai summoned them to the bridge. Her expression was grim. "Isul's message was broadcast 3 hours ago. The response has been significant." "Good significant or bad significant?" Daeho asked. "Both. Several Velhari colony worlds have begun protests against the military council. Some ships have defected to neutral space. The reform movement is growing. And the bad news?" Isul asked. Mirai pulled up a tactical display. "The military council has dispatched their first fleet to find and kill you. 12 warships, including their flagship Eternal Judgment. They are not hiding their intentions. They broadcast their mission openly. They want to make an example of me. Yes, and they will be here in 6 days." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Soul's Pride was a single frigate. Against a Velhari battle fleet, they had no chance. "We need to run," one of the officers said. "No," Isul said firmly. "Running is what they expect. It makes me look weak, cowardly. It proves their claims that I am not fit to lead." "Then what do you suggest?" Mirai asked. "We fight. That is suicide. Not if we are smart about it." Isul moved to the tactical display, studying it with a commander's eye. "I know the First Fleet's tactics. I know their commanders. I know their weaknesses. Knowing and exploiting are different things. Then we create conditions that favor us." Isul looked at Daeho. "You said humans are good at making things work with what they have. Prove it." Daeho stepped forward, his mind already working. "What assets do we have?" 1 frigate, 3 support ships, and the Soul's Pride's marine complement, Mirai listed. "Not nearly enough." "What about the terrain?" Daeho asked. "Where will they find us?" Mirai highlighted their current position. They were near an asteroid field with significant mineral deposits that created sensor interference. "That could work," Daeho said slowly. "Velhari sensors are more advanced than ours, but those minerals will still affect them. If we can lure them into the field and split their forces..." "They are too disciplined to fall for a simple trap," Isul said. "Then we make it complicated." Daeho was warming to the idea now. Multiple false signals. hit-and-run attacks. Make them chase shadows while we position for a real strike. Against their flagship, Isol added, understanding his plan. The Eternal Judgment is Admiral Yuna's command ship. She leads the military council. If we can disable or destroy it, the fleet will lose coordination. That is still incredibly risky, Mirai said. Every option is risky, Isol replied. But this one has a chance of success, and more importantly, it sends a message that I am not hiding, that I will face them. Mirai studied the tactical display for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, we do this your way, but we need every advantage we can get. She turned to her communications officer. Send a message to Coalition Command. Request any available ships to rendezvous at our position, and get me everything we have on the Eternal Judgment specifications. Yes, Captain. As the bridge erupted into activity, Daeho and Isul stood together by the display. This is crazy, he said quietly. Yes, she agreed. But sometimes crazy is all we have. If we survive this, I am Taki Part 6, counteroffensive. 5 days passed in intense preparation. Coalition Command sent what reinforcements they could, but it amounted to only 3 more frigates and a supply ship. Against the Velhari First Fleet, they were still hopelessly outnumbered. Daeho spent those days working with the Marine squad that would infiltrate the Eternal Judgment. The team leader was a no-nonsense woman named Jiwan, who specialized in demolitions. Her second was Sung-min, a pilot with more close calls than any sane person should survive. The team medic was Hana, whose steady hands had saved dozens of lives. So we're boarding a Velhari flagship with the queen who betrayed them, Jiwan said during a planning session. And we're doing this why? Because sitting here waiting to die is boring, Sung-min replied with a grin. Because it might work, Daeho corrected. The Eternal Judgment is the fleet's brain. Kill the brain, the body stops working. That is a very human way of thinking, Isol observed. She was studying the ship's schematics with focused intensity. Velhari doctrine emphasizes redundancy. If the flagship falls, command passes to the next senior officer. But there will be confusion, Daeho argued. Hesitation. That's when the rest of our fleet strikes. It is a sound plan, Isul agreed. Assuming we can actually board the flagship and reach the shield generators. That's where I come in, Jiwan said, patting her equipment pack. These charges will cut through anything short of a black hole. Your confidence is refreshing, Isul said dryly. Your Majesty, if I'm going to die horribly, I might as well be confident about it. Despite the grim situation, the team was developing good chemistry. They practiced the boarding procedure repeatedly, using the Soul's Pride's cargo bay as a mock-up of the Eternal Judgment's layout. Isil's knowledge of the flagship was invaluable. She knew every corridor, every security checkpoint, every weak point. The shield generators are here, she explained, pointing to the schematic. They are heavily guarded but accessible from the main engineering deck. If we can reach them and plant G1's charges, the shields will fail. What about you? Hana asked. You're still recovering. Should you even be on this mission? I know that ship better than anyone alive. I toured it dozens of times. I know where the patrols walk and when they change shifts. I know which doors have override codes and which require biometric scans. Isol's expression was determined. I am coming. Daeho did not argue. He had learned that arguing with Isol was pointless once she made up her mind. On the 6th day, the Velhari First Fleet arrived. 12 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the asteroid field, their weapons charging. The Eternal Judgment led the formation, massive and intimidating. Here we go, Captain Mirai said from the Soul's Pride's bridge. All ships execute Plan Alpha. The coalition ships scattered into the asteroid field, broadcasting false signals from dozens of locations. The Velhari fleet split into 3 groups to investigate exactly as Isol predicted they would. Admiral Yuna is cautious but methodical, Isol explained. She will investigate each signal before committing her full force. That gives us time. Time was what they needed. While the Velhari ships chased phantom contacts, Sung-min piloted a stolen Velhari shuttle toward the Eternal Judgment. The shuttle's transponder codes came from a ship Isol had captured weeks ago. It should register as friendly. Should. There were no guarantees. Shuttle 774, state your business. The Eternal Judgment's traffic control demanded. Isol responded in flawless Velhari, her voice cold and authoritative. Emergency medical transport. We have wounded from the scout engagement. A pause. Then, You are not on our scheduled arrivals. We were not scheduled to get shot at either. Clear us for docking or I report your obstruction to the Admiral. Another pause. Daeho held his breath. If they rejected the shuttle, the entire plan collapsed. Cleared for Dock 3. Medical team standing by. Confirmed. Sungmin let out a quiet whistle. Your Majesty, you are terrifyingly good at this. I was queen for 30 years. I know how to command. The shuttle docked smoothly. The team moved quickly through the airlock, Isul in the lead. Her armor was in full royal configuration, making her look every bit the queen she claimed to be. The landing crew snapped to attention when they saw her. Your Majesty, one stammered. We were told you were dead. The council lies. Isul walked past him without stopping. Carry on with your duties. The crew was too shocked to react. By the time they thought to question her presence, the team was gone. That was easier than expected. Ji-won muttered. The hard part comes now. Isul replied. She led them through a maze of corridors moving with confidence. They passed dozens of crew members, but Isol's presence and demeanor convinced everyone she belonged there. It was a masterclass in acting. They were halfway to engineering when alarms suddenly blared. The council must have warned the crew, Isul said. They know I am aboard. Time to move fast, Daeho said. They ran. Behind them, armed soldiers appeared, shouting orders. Plasma fire scorched the walls. Ji-won tossed a flash grenade behind them, buying precious seconds. Left here, Isul directed. They burst through a maintenance door into a narrow service corridor. It was a tight fit with their equipment, but it bypassed the main checkpoints. How much further? Hana asked, breathing hard. 2 more levels. They climbed through access shafts and crawled through maintenance tunnels. The Eternal Judgment was huge, and every meter felt like a kilometer. Soldiers hunted them, their search pattern methodical. Finally, they reached engineering. The shield generators dominated the massive space, thrumming with power. Guards stood at every entrance. 8 guards, 2 automated turrets, Sungmin counted. Not great odds. I can disable the turrets, Isul said. My command codes should still work. Should? There is only one way to find out. Before anyone could stop her, Isul stepped into the open. The guards immediately raised their weapons. Stop, she commanded, her voice echoing through engineering. I am Queen Isul. Stand down. You are a traitor, one guard replied. Surrender or die. I am your rightful queen. The council has betrayed everything we stand for. Join me, and help me rebuild our empire into something worth serving. The guards hesitated. Daeho could see the conflict on their faces. They had sworn loyalty to the queen, but the council had branded her a traitor. What did loyalty mean when both sides claimed authority? The council authorized genocide, Isul continued. They wanted me to exterminate an innocent species for profit. I refused because I remembered what it means to be Velhari. We are not monsters. We are better than our worst impulses. One guard lowered his weapon, then another. But the rest held firm, and the turrets began tracking Isul. Enough speeches, their leader said. Take her, everything happened at once. The turrets fired. Isul dove for cover. Daeho and the Marines opened fire on the guards. Ji-won sprinted toward the shield generators, her pack of charges bouncing against her back. A plasma bolt caught Isol's shoulder, burning through her armor. She gasped in pain but kept moving, returning fire. Her shots were precise, targeting weapons and armor joints rather than killing. She is still trying not to kill them, Daeho muttered, providing covering fire. Hana reached Isul and started emergency treatment. This is bad. The armor's connection to her shoulder is severed. Can you fix it? Not here. Not now. Then patch what you can. We need her mobile. The firefight intensified. Sungmin took out one turret with a well-placed grenade. The second turret exploded when Daeho shot its power coupling. The guards were well-trained but outnumbered and caught by surprise. Ji-won reached the first shield generator and started placing charges. These need 5 minutes to set properly. We might not have 5 minutes, Sungmin said, checking his ammunition. A new voice boomed through engineering. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. Admiral Yuna entered, flanked by a dozen elite guards. She was tall and imposing, her armor more elaborate than the standard issue. Her weapon was aimed directly at Isul. Hello, Admiral, Isul said, standing despite her injury. Come to kill me yourself. You forced my hand. I wanted to remember you as the queen you once were. Now I will remember you as a traitor who died begging. I have never begged for anything, and I am still your queen. You are nothing, Yuna fired. Isol's armor flared, absorbing most of the blast, but she staggered. Deho shot at Yuna, but her personal shield turned his bullets to sparks. Humans, Yuna sneered. Primitives playing at war. This primitive just got your attention, Deho replied, moving to draw her fire away from Isol. The battle became chaos. Yuna's elite guards were far better than the regular soldiers. They moved with ruthless efficiency, pushing the team back. Hana took a hit to her leg and went down. Sungmin dragged her behind cover while returning fire. Jiwan was still working on the charges. 4 more minutes. We don't have 4 minutes, Deho said. Isol forced herself upright and faced Yuna directly. Admiral, you served my mother before me. You swore an oath to protect the Empire and its people. Remember that oath. Remember why we became powerful. Not through cruelty, but through strength tempered by wisdom. Your mother. The Eternal Judgment shuddered under the Coalition assault. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Emergency lights cast everything in harsh red. Deho supported Isol while Sungmin helped Hana limp forward. Jiwan led the way, her weapon ready. We need to reach the shuttle, Deho said. Can you make it? Isol's face was pale, her armor barely glowing. The damage to her chest plate was severe, but she nodded. I will make it. I refuse to die on this ship. They navigated through the chaos. Crew members ran past them, more concerned with the external attack than a small group of intruders, but they could not avoid everyone. A squad of soldiers blocked their path near the docking bay. Stand down, the squad leader commanded. By order of Admiral Yuna. Jiwan raised her weapon, but Isol stepped forward despite her injuries. By order of Queen Isol, you will let us pass, she said. Her voice was weak but carried undeniable authority. This ship is dying. The shields are gone. The Coalition fleet is tearing us apart. Save yourselves. Abandon ship. The soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. The Admiral gave orders, their leader said, but his voice lacked conviction. The Admiral is a traitor who serves power, not the Empire. Look at what her orders have brought us. We are losing. Isol coughed and blood appeared on her lips. Please, enough death. Just let us go. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the squad leader lowered his weapon. The escape pods are this way, Your Majesty. I suggest you use them. Thank you. They reached the docking bay to find it in chaos. Ships were launching in panic, fleeing the dying flagship. Their stolen shuttle was still there, but barely. A support beam had fallen across its hull, damaging the engines. Can you fly it? Deho asked Sungmin. The pilot examined the damage and grimaced. Maybe, if we are very lucky and I'm very good. Then let us hope you are both. They boarded quickly. Sungmin worked frantically at the controls while Hana treated Isol's wounds. The armor had protected her from the worst of it, but the chest plate connection was badly damaged. She was losing blood and the luminescent fluid that powered her armor. I need to remove the damaged section, Hana said. But I do not know Velhari anatomy well enough. If I cut wrong, I could kill her. Let me, Deho said, moving beside Isol. He had repaired her armor twice before. He knew its patterns, its responses. His hands were steady as he assessed the damage. This will hurt, he warned. Everything hurts already. Do it. He worked with practiced efficiency, disconnecting the damaged connections and sealing the exposed pathways. Isol gripped the seat arms hard enough to dent the metal, but she did not cry out. Her silver eyes never left his face. You have good hands, she whispered. The same words she had said during their first meeting. For a human. You're not so bad yourself. For a queen, she smiled weakly. We should have met under better circumstances. Yeah, like at a boring diplomatic reception where the worst danger is bad wine. I hate diplomatic receptions. Me too. The shuttle lurched as Sungmin fired the engines. They limped out of the docking bay just as another explosion rocked the Eternal Judgment. The flagship was breaking apart, its hull buckling under the sustained assault. Hold on, Sungmin warned. This will be rough. Rough was an understatement. The damaged shuttle spun wildly as he fought for control. Debris from the flagship rained around them. A Velhari fighter nearly collided with them, its pilot too focused on fleeing to watch for obstacles. But somehow Sungmin kept them flying. He wove through the battle, dodging weapons fire and debris with skill that bordered on miraculous. The Soul's Pride appeared ahead, its docking bay open and waiting. Soul's Pride, this is Shuttle 774 requesting emergency landing, Sungmin called. We have critical wounded aboard. Confirmed 774. Bay 3 is clear. Medical team standing by. They crashed more than landed, the shuttle's damaged engines giving out at the last moment. But they were aboard. They were safe. Medical personnel swarmed the shuttle the moment it settled. They carefully extracted Isul, placing her on a stretcher. Hana went with them, still treating her wounds. Daeho tried to follow, but a medic stopped him. "Sir, you're wounded too. Let me check that burn." He had forgotten about the plasma graze on his ribs. Adrenaline had kept the pain at bay. Now it came flooding back and he nearly collapsed. "Easy," the medic said. "You're going to medical bay too." Daeho wanted to argue, but exhaustion hit him like a physical force. He let them lead him away. He woke hours later in a medical bed. His ribs were wrapped in regenerative bandages that tingled against his skin. Captain Mirai sat in a chair beside his bed, reviewing reports on a data pad. "Welcome back," she said when his eyes opened. "You've been out for 6 hours. Isul?" he asked immediately. "Alive, in surgery. Her armor took severe damage and the connections to her chest plate were nearly severed. Our doctors are working with Velhari medical data she provided to repair it." Mirai set down her pad. "She kept asking for you before they sedated her." "I need to see her. You need to rest." "Hacker's orders." "Captain, that's an order, Daeho." But her voice was gentle. "She'll be in surgery for another few hours. Rest now. You can see her when she wakes." He wanted to argue more but knew it was pointless. Instead he asked, "What happened with the battle?" "We won. Barely." Mirai pulled up a tactical display. The Eternal Judgment was destroyed. Admiral Yuna went down with her ship. 3 other Velhari warships were disabled. The rest retreated into hyperspace. Casualties? Lighter than expected. The Velhari fleet broke formation when the flagship fell, exactly as Queen Isolde predicted. We were able to disable rather than destroy most ships. Mirai's expression was satisfied. And more importantly, we captured survivors, including several officers who were part of the military council. "So it's over? This battle is over." "The war?" She shrugged. "That depends on what happens next." Daeho slept fitfully, his dreams filled with explosions and silver eyes. When he finally woke again, a nurse informed him that Isolde was out of surgery and awake. He dressed quickly, ignoring the protest from his ribs, and headed to her room. She was sitting up in bed when he entered, her armor removed for the first time since he had met her. Without it, she looked smaller, more vulnerable. Her chest was wrapped in medical bandages, and monitoring equipment tracked her vital signs, but her eyes were alert and focused on him. "You look terrible," she said. "You're one to talk," she smiled. "Come sit. Tell me what I missed." He sat beside her bed and explained everything. The battle's outcome, Admiral Yuna's death, the captured officers. She listened quietly, her expression unreadable. "So it is finished," she said when he was done. "For now. The Empire will need new leadership. The reform movement will push for change, but there will be resistance." She looked down at her hands. "They will want me to return. To take my place as queen again. Will you?" "I do not know. I ran because I could not be the queen they wanted. Can I be the queen they need?" She met his eyes. "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should do what feels right, not what others expect." "That is not very helpful advice. I'm a mechanic, not a politician." She laughed softly, then winced at the pain it caused. "You are more than a mechanic. You are the man who saved my life 3 times, who stood beside me against impossible odds, who saw me as a person rather than a symbol. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they would not have." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was surprisingly warm. "Daeho, there is something I must tell you. In Velhari culture, when someone saves another's life, it creates a bond called Reshka. It means the saved person owes a life debt to their savior. You don't owe me anything. Let me finish." She squeezed his hand gently. "But when that bond forms between equals, when both people risk everything for each other, it becomes something else. Reshka Nel, a bond of souls." Daeho's heart beat faster. "What does that mean?" "It means that you are no longer just the human who saved me. You are part of my life, part of my soul." Her silver eyes were intense. "If I return to lead the Empire, I want you to come with me. Not as a bodyguard or an advisor, but as my partner. In all things, I'm just a human. Your people barely tolerate us. Then we will teach them better, together." She pulled him closer. I am tired of being alone, Deho. I am tired of wearing masks and playing roles. With you I can be myself. Is that not worth fighting for? He looked at her, seeing past the alien features to the person beneath. Someone brave and principled and impossibly stubborn. Someone who had given up everything for what was right. Someone who made him want to be better than he was. Yeah, he said quietly. It is. She smiled, genuine and bright. Then you will come? I'll come. Someone needs to keep fixing your armor when you break it. I do not break it. It gets damaged in battle. Same thing. She pulled him down and kissed him. It was gentle and tentative, a first kiss between two people from different worlds, but it felt right. Perfect even. When they finally separated, both were smiling. Your doctors will kill me for tiring you out, Deho said. Let them try. I am a queen. I do what I want. You're impossible. You like that about me? Maybe.